It was the most anticipated wedding in the kingdom's history, and Princess Adaeze was about to marry a homeless madman who lived under a bridge. The daughter of the Oba, which means king in Yoruba culture, was finally getting married after turning down 47 suitors. 47. Governors, oil tycoons, foreign diplomats, even a prince from Dubai. She had rejected them all. The entire kingdom gathered in their finest attire. Gold coral beads that cost more than some houses. Asook, that hand-woven fabric that takes months to make. The talking drummers were ready. The king sat on his throne, smiling with pride. And then the bride walked in, holding the hand of crazy Emeka, the homeless madman who lived under the third mainland bridge. The man who collected trash and talked to himself all day. The man who wore the same torn shirt for 3 years. The palace erupted in chaos. The king stood up so fast his crown nearly fell off his head. The queen mother fainted so dramatically, 3 people had to carry her. Her head wrap flew from her head like the dove from Noah's Ark. This is witchcraft. Uncle Ochuko, the king's brother, shouted. Someone has bewitched our daughter. Auntie Ngozi, the village gossip queen, whispered to her sister loud enough for half the palace to hear. I always knew that girl was stubborn, but this is madness marrying madness. Her sister responded, fanning herself dramatically, Ngozi, I think we're witnessing the end of royalty as we know it. But before we understand how Princess Adaeze ended up here, holding the hand of a man everyone called crazy, we need to go back. Back to when she was the most desired woman in West Africa. Princess Adaeze wasn't just beautiful. She was extraordinary. 3 master's degrees from Oxford University. She spoke 7 languages: English, Yoruba, Igbo, French, Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish. Think Michelle Obama meets Angelina Jolie meets a Rhodes Scholar. That was Princess Adaeze. She ran the kingdom's most successful NGO, feeding 10,000 children daily. World leaders called her for counsel. When she spoke at international conferences, rooms went silent. But it wasn't just her education. Every Tuesday she visited orphanages. Every Thursday she taught at the kingdom's school. She never missed a Sunday service. And the men? Oh, the proposals never stopped. When the governor of a neighboring state proposed, offering a mansion in Banana Island, Lagos's Beverly Hills, she said, Governor, you can't buy a palace-raised woman with a house. I already live in a palace. When a billionaire oil magnate sent 47 cows as bride price, 1 for each year she'd been alive, she sent them back with a note. I appreciate the cows, but I'm looking for a man, not a livestock farmer. The elders praised her wisdom. Not like these modern girls who marry for money, they would say. Every morning before dawn, neighbors would hear her voice rising from her prayer room. Father, make me a vessel of honor. Even the rooster that crowed at 5 a.m. used to wait for her to finish before crowing. When children saw her coming, they would run and shout, Princess is here. Princess is here. Not because she was royalty, but because she always brought gifts, hugs, and actually remembered their names. Mothers pointed to her and told their daughters, be like Princess Adaeze. Beautiful but humble. Rich but generous. Educated but respectful. She was perfection in human form. If holiness had a perfume, Princess Adaeze wore it every day. So you can imagine the seismic shock that went through the kingdom when this same woman, this Oxford-educated NGO-running, suitor-rejecting princess, walked down the aisle holding the hand of crazy Emeka. Adaeze, the Oba stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. What is the meaning of this? The entire palace went silent. Even the talking drum stopped talking. You could hear the sound of coral beads clinking as someone's necklace broke from the tension and fell to the ground. This is an abomination. Uncle Ochuko roared, his voice echoing across the courtyard. This thing cannot marry into the royal family. He probably doesn't even know his own name. Auntie Ngozi fanned herself so fast the fan became a blur. Is this not the same Emeka who eats from the garbage? Now he wants to eat jollof rice at the palace. Her sister leaned in close. Ngozi, I think we're witnessing history. The kind they'll tell our grandchildren about. The royal guard stood in confusion, looking at each other, then at the king, then at the couple. Their ceremonial spears that usually stood straight were now tilted at various angles. No one knew what order to give or take. But Princess Adaeze stood perfectly still. Perfectly calm. Her hand never left Emeka's. When she finally spoke, her voice cut through the chaos like a knife through silk. Papa, she said, looking only at the king. I know what this looks like. I know what you're all thinking. But before you send the guards, before you call the native doctor to break the spell, before you disown me, I need you to hear a story. She turned now to face the entire gathering, her eyes landing on Uncle Ochuko for just a moment too long. A story that involves every single person in this palace. A story about oil and land and 3 dead men whose families still don't know why they died. Uncle Ochuko's face went from red with anger to pale with something else. Fear. Mr. and Mrs. Cumulifer, the moral pillars of the church, stood up to leave. We cannot sit here and watch madness parade itself on the altar of God, Mrs. Cumulifer announced. But just as they reached the door, Princess Adaeze's calm voice sliced through the tension. Before you leave, you might want to hear why I'm dressed like this. Because it concerns you, Mrs. Cumulifer, and your family. The couple froze. The entire church gasped. Guards brought forward a large carved wooden box. Princess opened it slowly. Inside, documents, photographs, certificates, USB drives. The Oba raised his hand, silencing the murmurs. Adaeze, he said slowly, you have been my daughter for 28 years. You have never given me a reason to doubt your judgment. So I will give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes to explain why my throne room is hosting a madman on your wedding day. Every single person in that palace leaned forward. Some stood on chairs. Necks stretched like giraffes trying to see over a fence. 6 months ago, Princess Adaeze began, I was driving through Idamoda Market when I saw something that would change everything I thought I knew about this kingdom, about our wealth, and about what madness really means. It happened on a rainy night. The kind of rain that seems to wash away people's secrets. Princess Adaeze had been driving home late from an evening fellowship when her headlights caught something unusual by the third mainland bridge. A slim figure. Standing too close to the edge. At first, she thought it was someone trying to cross the flooded path. But as she drove closer, her heart stopped. It was a young girl. Barefoot. Drenched. Shivering. Clutching a small piece of paper in one hand and staring into the dark water below. This wasn't an ordinary sight. This was pain in its final moment. Princess Adaeze stopped the car and jumped out. Rain soaked her instantly. My dear, she shouted, her voice breaking through the storm. What are you doing there? The girl turned slowly. Her face was pale. Her eyes swollen from crying. Please don't come closer, she whispered. I'm tired. I just want the pain to stop. Princess's heart broke instantly. What's your name? Princess asked softly, stepping closer. The girl hesitated. Kimi. Kimi Papalola. And I know who you are. Kimi, listen to me. No, you listen. The girl's voice cracked. You don't know what it's like. You've never been thrown away like trash. You've never been told you're an abomination. Princess moved closer, rain streaming down both their faces. Then tell me, she said gently. Tell me what happened. And Kimi did. Through sobs and rain, the story spilled out. A story so horrifying that Princess's hand flew to her mouth in shock. Her uncle. The pregnancy. The family that threw her out. And the names. The names made Princess freeze. Without thinking, Princess pulled the girl into her arms. Held her tight in the pouring rain. You're not alone anymore, Princess whispered. I've got you. You hear me? I've got you. Later, sitting in Princess's car with a warm blanket and hot tea, Kimi told her everything. 6 months ago, back in the palace courtyard, Princess continued her story to the frozen crowd. I met a girl who was ready to end her life. And do you know why? She turned to look directly at Uncle Ochuko and his wife. Because her own family, her aunt and uncle, threw her out when she got pregnant. Not because she was promiscuous, but because her uncle got her pregnant. And his wife, instead of protecting her niece, chose to protect her reputation. Princess stood at the podium like a prosecutor. No longer a bride. A truth teller. She held up a document. This is a PhD certificate from the University of Lagos. Graduated 15 years ago. Top of his class in petroleum geology. She turned toward Emeka. The man you've been calling crazy Emeka is Dr. Emeka Okonkwo. She held up 2 photographs side by side. On the left, a young man in graduation robes. Bright eyes. Full of hope. On the right, the same man. Matted hair. Dirty face. Torn clothes. But if you looked closely, really looked, the eyes were the same. 15 years ago, Princess continued, Dr. Okonkwo was hired by the federal government to survey oil deposits across the Niger Delta. When he came to our kingdom's land, the oil field that makes us the richest Oba in the region, he found something strange. She spread out 2 large maps. This is the original 1975 boundary map. And this is the recent map from 2005. Notice something? The boundary line moved. The oil well that has made our kingdom wealthy for 20 years sits on land that belongs to Igbodo village. Someone forged documents. Someone bribed officials. Someone stole an entire village's future. Uncle Ochuko was sweating now. His expensive agbada suddenly looked heavy. His eyes darted around looking for escape. When Dr. Okonkwo discovered this, Princess's voice hardened, and tried to report it. Someone tried to kill him. She held up hospital records. X-rays showing broken bones. A shattered leg. Cracked ribs. Traumatic brain injury. He was thrown off a bridge. Left for dead. But he survived. And when he recovered, he realized something. Dead men can't expose corruption. But madmen? Nobody kills madmen. Nobody listens to madmen. Nobody suspects madmen. She held up bank statements. So for 15 years Dr. Okonkwo lived under that bridge. Watching. Documenting. Gathering evidence. And here, she pointed to a transfer of 500,000 naira, is the payment made the week of his attack. From Uncle Ochuko's account. To the men who tried to kill him. But that was 15 years ago, Princess continued, her voice now edged with rage. Maybe we could say people change. Except. She held up 3 photographs. Young men. Smiling. 3 months ago, these 3 men from Igbodo village found their grandfather's original land deeds. They started asking questions. Her voice broke slightly. Chidi Okoro, age 27. Died in a car accident on a perfectly clear day. Eze Abiodun, age 29. Shot by armed robbers who took nothing. Tund Nwosu, age 28. Sudden heart failure. In the crowd, 3 mothers began to weep. Even Auntie Ngozi was crying now. Her fan forgotten in her lap. No gossip. Just grief. Princess pulled up her phone, projecting text messages on a screen. That boy Chidi asking too many questions. Handle it quietly. Make it look natural. The sender, Ochuko. An elderly man stood slowly. The Igbodo village chief. Tears streaming into his gray beard. For 20 years, he said, his voice trembling, we told you our children were starving. We showed you our grandfather's deeds. And you called us liars. Troublemakers. Jealous. He pointed a shaking finger at the oil well visible in the distance. That is our oil. Our land. Our future you stole. And when our children asked for it back, you killed them. Princess Adaeze raised her hand and the crowd fell silent. She no longer looked like a bride. She looked like a prophet. Look at yourselves, she said quietly. Every single one of you. Across the palace, heads bowed. Hands covered faces. You praised me when I rejected rich suitors. You said I had standards. But when I chose a man who sacrificed everything for justice, you called it madness. She pointed directly at the crowd. You don't respect character. You respect appearance. And that's why this kingdom is rotting from inside. And you, Princess turned to Auntie Ngozi, you've spent years mocking this man. Laughing at him. Using his suffering to entertain yourself. Auntie Ngozi's face crumbled. But should I remind you about church camp 5 years ago? Behind cabin 4? When you and your sister, the same sisters who lead purity pledges every Sunday, were wrapped in blankets with those camp workers. The sisters sank into their seats, faces pale. Princess's voice softened, but her words hit harder. I didn't come here to disgrace anyone. I came to show you something. We are all sinners. Just dressed differently. Some of us wear our sins where people can see them. Others perfume theirs and hide them under lace. But sin is sin. That night on the bridge as I held Kimmy crying in the rain, God told me something. Dress like what they condemn and show them their reflection. She gestured to herself. I didn't wear this to mock holiness. I wore it to show you how quick you are to judge based on appearance while ignoring your own hearts. Across the crowd, people were having their own reckonings. The businessman clutching his phone with its evidence of fraud. The mother who taught her children to mock the homeless. The official who processed false documents. Everyone had something. Princess stepped down from the podium and walked to Auntie Ngozi. Without a word, she embraced the sobbing woman. I forgive you, she whispered. Around them, others began embracing. Asking forgiveness. Offering it. The Oba stood slowly. Tears streaming down his weathered face. He walked toward his daughter. Not as a king to a subject. As a father to a teacher. Around them, the entire palace was kneeling. Rich and poor. Young and old. Everyone on their knees. The king reached up and removed his crown. I didn't know, he said, his voice breaking. I swear by my ancestors I didn't know. My brother handled the oil deals. But. He paused, tears falling into his beard. When people complained, I didn't investigate. Because investigating would have meant sacrificing my comfort. And that makes me complicit. He set the crown on his throne and stepped away from it. I will not wear this again until I can wear it without shame. Uncle Ochuko had collapsed. No defiance left. Just a broken man facing what he'd become. His expensive agbada was dirty. His coral beads scattered in the dust. He was sobbing so hard his whole body shook. I ordered the deaths of 3 innocent men, he said into a microphone, his voice hoarse. I stole land from Igbodo village. I tried to murder Dr. Emeka Okonkwo. I accept full responsibility. I will face trial. Police officers stepped forward. Palace attendants brought water. Clean clothes. Right there in front of everyone they began to wash crazy Emeka clean. The water ran brown with 15 years of dirt and grime. His matted hair was combed out. The torn clothes removed. And standing there, clean and dignified, was Dr. Emeka Okonkwo. Not old. Not crazy. Just a man in his late 30s who'd sacrificed everything for truth. He was actually handsome. Ah. Auntie Ngozi gasped. So this is what was under all that dirt? We've been wasting a fine man. The doors opened again. Kimmy walked in supported by church mothers. Clean. Cared for. Visibly pregnant with a small belly showing. As she entered, the crowd parted. Uncle Ochuko, still in restraints, turned his face away. Unable to look at her. Kimmy walked slowly to where Uncle Ochuko knelt. She stood there for a long moment. Then she placed her hand gently on his bowed head. I forgive you, she said quietly. Behind her, Mrs. Cumulifer fell to her knees, begging her niece for forgiveness. And across the courtyard, the king held Dr. Emeka's hand, tears of gratitude streaming down his face. As the sun began to set, the palace courtyard transformed. No longer a wedding. Not quite a trial. Something new. Dr. Emeka, now clean and professional, sat at a table teaching young students about geology. Princess worked with women planning NGO expansion. The king and the village chief signed documents, returning what was stolen. Kimmy was surrounded by church mothers preparing for her baby. Life, hope, work, healing. 6 months later, much had changed. Dr. Emeka Okonkwo was back at the University of Lagos, teaching a new generation of geologists. His classes were always full. Students wanted to learn from the man who'd faked madness for justice. Kimmy held her 2-month-old baby. A healthy, beautiful child. She was learning tailoring, building a future. The church mothers who'd saved her still checked on her daily. Life from trauma. Hope from despair. Princess Adaeze NGO had expanded to both kingdoms, now feeding 25,000 children daily. Auntie Ngozi, the former gossip queen, was there every day serving food and genuinely caring for the children. From gossip to service. From judgment to love. In Igbodo village, children now went to school. Clean water flowed from new wells. Small businesses thrived. The oil revenues that had been stolen for 20 years were being repaid, with interest. Justice created prosperity. The king never put his crown back on. Instead, he served on a council of elders, seated as an equal, not elevated. The Igbodo chief sat beside him. Dr. Emeka managed resources for both kingdoms. Princess directed social development. Shared power. True leadership. One Saturday afternoon, Dr. Emeka and Princess Adaeze drove to the third mainland bridge. Under the bridge, where Emeka had lived for 15 years, there were new homeless people now. They got out with bags of food and blankets. Emeka knelt beside a man everyone called Crazy Joseph. Brother, he said softly, I don't know your story, but I know this: you are seen. You are valued. And if you ever need someone to listen, I'm here. The saved becoming saviors. The cycle of rescue continuing. The lesson of this story is simple but profound. We are all fighting battles others don't see. Some wear their struggles where people can see them. Others hide theirs behind fine clothes and big titles. But we are all broken. We are all human. Treat each other with grace. Princess Adaeze and Dr. Emeka Okonkwo never had that palace wedding. But 6 months later, in a quiet garden ceremony with close friends and the people they served, they made their vows. Their love wasn't built on a scandal. It was built on shared mission. Mutual respect. Tested faith. The kind of love that lasts. Before you judge someone's cover, remember, you don't know their story. The person you mock might be the hero you need. The struggle you can't see might be heavier than yours. Look with compassion. Judge with mercy. Live with grace. And today, in that same palace courtyard where scandal once erupted, life continues. Children play. Elders plan. Young people build. Women teach. Men serve. The drums play again, but now with joy. Real joy. Because that day, Princess Adaeze didn't just marry a madman. She showed an entire kingdom what happens when you choose truth over comfort, character over appearance, justice over reputation. And the madness? The real madness was never under the bridge. It was in the palace all along. Crazy Emeka wasn't crazy. He was awake in a world that wanted to sleep. And Princess Adaeze? She chose to wake up too. May we all have the courage to do the same. Sometimes the people the world throws away are the ones holding the truth. Sometimes madness is the sanest response to an insane world. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is choosing to see what everyone else refuses to look at. The end.